Dear students, good morning. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, 17th May 2018. The first article is Rupee Rout. Indian rupee got depreciated by 6.2% in 2018. What are the reasons for this and what are the consequences of the same? If we observe, the international oil prices are rising and India is an oil dependent country. So there is a huge demand for dollars against the rupee and it makes rupee weaker. And second thing is, internationally there is volatile situation in West Asia. The expectations of coming down of oil prices are almost nil. The third reason we can observe is about rising interest rates in United States of America. As interest rates rise over there, so that's a risk aversive or low risk investment. Much of the capital from our stock markets and also bond markets will fly to United States. So these are the three reasons why rupee is fast declining. So whenever rupee declines, depreciates, obviously it leads to a better environment for exports. Exports becomes cheaper in the international markets. But in India, the exports are not rising in spite of depreciation of rupee. So this shows competitiveness of our exports is very weak. So it is the time India has to focus on improving its exports. That's how we can put it as. Death in Gaza. This is about recent shifting of Embassy of United States of America from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Let us understand the architecture over there. So you have Gaza Strip, West Bank, and then we have this East Jerusalem. So here, this Gaza Strip is under blockade for more than a decade. Because of this blockade, it is reaching to humanitarian crisis out there. And this blockade is implemented by Israel and Egypt together. And here, East Jerusalem and West Bank and Gaza, these three together shall form the Palestinian territory. So most of these territories are occupied by Israel from 1948 to till date. So there are many illegal settlements in West Bank and East Jerusalem. And second thing is, Israel from very beginning wants to recognize Jerusalem as its capital, which was opposed by Arabs. And you know that Jerusalem has holy places for all the religions. So in this context, the blockade and illegal occupation, all these are going to worsen the Israel-Palestinian problem. And second, the dialogue process, the peace process was stalled for years together now. And United States of America, which has mediated this, is no more enjoying the legitimacy as it appears to be or else unilateral or supportive of the Israel. So in this context, who has to take up this responsibility is a major question. A pilgrimage to Nepal. This is about India-Nepal relations. You know that Nepal was a monarchy before, and it is converted into a constitutional republic. And in the process, there were talks between army and Maoists, Democrats and the king. And finally, it evolved itself as a republic. And this republic has engaged itself in constitutional framing. And then when Prime Minister Modi first visited Nepal, in his neighborhood first policy, he has clearly stated that Nepal is sovereign and it is free to determine its constitutional course. But after 2 years, when Nepal has brought in its constitution, India did not welcome it with open heart, and it has exposed that the constitution is not inclusive because of the provincial redistribution of the constituencies. And finally, there was a blockade. So though India says that it is not officially involved in the blockade and the truckers are not willing to cross the border because of disturbances in Madhesi region, Mr. Woli, who was the Prime Minister then, has concluded that it is an attack on Nepal's sovereignty. So this has raised the anti-India sentiments. Finally, in the elections, KP Sharma Oli government, KP Sharma Oli party, that is Communist Party of Nepal, United Marxist-Leninist, won at the national level, provincial level, and also local level. There is a strong mandate behind KP Sharma Oli now. So India realized the nosediving of relations and took the measures to repair it. So KP Sharma Oli has visited India as a tradition, and Indian Prime Minister also has reciprocated with his visit recently. But more than symbolism, we need substance in these relations. So if we observe, in the past visits, Prime Minister Modi has promised greater connectivity and also $2 billion aid, and added to that a support to reconstruction program after earthquake and building the hydroelectric dams. All these did not move forward. It means if any relationship has to cross the symbolism and to become great in substance, it has to deliver. So failure to deliver on bilateral agenda is the first thing the countries have to concentrate. Now, that's what is this essence. New vistas for India, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Remember, there will be a prelims question on Shanghai Cooperation Organization this year because it has got much of preeminence because of decline of West-dominated NATO and unilateralism of United States of America. Post-America global order is expected to be dominated by SCO politically and RCEP economically. So in this context, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has its origins in Shanghai 5, and then it was meant to settle border disputes of China peacefully with the Central Asian countries. Later, it developed into a full-fledged association to reflect the interests of entire Eurasia. So, in this context, what are the countries which are members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization? Remember one thing, Turkmenistan is not a member. So, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan are the members in Central Asia. Along with that, Russia, India, Pakistan, and Iran are members. So, in this context, Shanghai Cooperation Organization is successful for its RATs. So, regional anti-terrorist structure. And remember, there is one country which is not sharing boundary with China, but is a member of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. I think that is Kyrgyzstan, if I am not wrong. And further to this, as Iran is going to join into this, it will more reflect as an anti-American association. So obviously, how India-US relations are going to be affected because of this, that is a million-dollar question. So today's India's diplomatic effort is called as plurilateralism, trying to balance multiple parties simultaneously. So previously, non-alignment. From non-alignment, we moved towards plurilateralism. So if you take in West Asia, we are trying to balance our relations with Israel, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. Similarly, we are trying to balance relations with USA and Russia. So in this context, the engagement of India with Shanghai Cooperation is an example for plurilateralism. Anything but green. It is about draft forest policy. So National Forest Policy 1988 has attained strong measures for conservation. So it prohibits indiscriminate transfer or diversion of land for non-forest purposes. It clearly states that cost-benefit analysis has to be done by the specialists. And in the case of moist tropical forests, tropical rain moist forests in Arunachal Pradesh, Andaman Nicobar, Kerala, they have to be totally safeguarded. So it means certain provisions for conservation exist. Now in the new draft policy, no such provisions are there. So Central Forest Board and state boards are created. They will be headed by Forest Minister of the respective governments. He will decide on the diversion of forest land for non-forest purpose. So obviously it is about diluting the forest protection to promote industrialization or to promote infrastructure. That's how this author sees it as. Gateway to power. Why people enter into civil services? When this question is asked, many of us answer it as service. So bigger than this. So there is a huge power gap between bureaucracy and common man in India. Because of the power gap and power distance, the common man sees the bureaucracy as a ready-made answer to this or answer to enter into the power structure of the country. So that's why middle class, to gain their significance in the power structure, the most important route they take up is the civil services examination. Cabinet approves new policy for biofuels. Whenever we talk about the biofuels, the debate is between food versus fuel. So the food security is priority or energy security is the priority. So in this context, the new biofuel policy is trying to balance these two things. The first is the sugarcane and various other products which are in excess, these can be used for ethanol production. Previously, any food product for conversion into ethanol is been prohibited. Now excess food can be used for ethanol production, but they need approval of the National Biofuel Coordination Committee. So it means food for fuel is tacitly approved under this policy. And second, tax incentives are being provided to encourage the production of the biofuel. And once the biofuel is provided, special refineries are necessary. Special allocations are made for these refineries. North Korea threatens to call off summit with US. So North Korea, what it is saying now is, if US is keeping denuclearization as a precondition for summit, obviously it is not interested in the talks. And second, General VK Singh makes surprise visit to North Korea. So why is India trying to build relations with the North Korea? That is what is the bigger question over here. It is probably Pakistan already is developing one or the other engagement with North Korean leadership. It also believed that Pakistan has clandestine understanding for North Korea's nuclear program. So in this context, India wants to secure its strategic interest by engaging with North Korea. For that, General VK Singh has made a visit to North Korea. How the numbers stack up? So it is about Karnataka elections. As expected, Karnataka governor has called BJP the single largest party to form the government, and he gave 15 days time to prove majority on the floor of the house for Chief Minister Yediyurappa. In this scenario, the governor's role again has become controversial. Governors in Goa, Manipur, Meghalaya, where Congress got the majority, or Congress did not get the majority but emerged as the single largest party, was not called to form the government, but BJP, which has formed a single largest coalition, was asked to form the government. Here the exactly opposite has happened. It means the governor has become more a kind of a puppet or instrument in the hands of the center. That's how it can be criticized as. But legally, if we observe, the tradition or convention may allow the governor to call the single largest party to form the government. And how much time is to be given to prove the majority on the floor of the house is again the discretion of the governor, and there is no constitutional norm for the same. And here, how the numbers stack up? It is about voting behavior. So opposition parties, unless they make the electoral alliances, they cannot stop the BJP's marching fast. In this context, the social coalitions which are been believed before as the bedrock of the election management are no more working. So the social coalitions have to be aligned with the electoral coalitions to make a winning or to stop the winning of BJP and to make the winning for the opposition. That's how this article talks about. Don't get into the regions of Karnataka, etc. to understand the voting behavior. See the macro picture in this article. Finally, I gave you the notes that will be available to you at likes.in/CivilsPrep. Thank you very much and all the best.